white cop slams a teenage black girl against a squad car just for walking home from school, but when she whispers, "Call my dad," he laughs, until the courtroom doors open. And in walks the town's most powerful judge. The sun dipped low over Crestwood High School, casting long shadows across the parking lot. For most teens, the walk home was a boring routine. But for 17-year-old Amara James, every step carried weight. She wore her usual hoodie and jeans, backpack slung over one shoulder, earbuds in, listening to a podcast about civil rights lawyers, ironically. Her friends had left earlier. She was used to walking alone. As she crossed Jefferson Avenue, a police cruiser slowed beside her. The window rolled down. "You live around here?" a white officer asked. His nameplate read R. Dugan. Amara pulled out one earbud. "Yeah, a few blocks that way," she said, politely nodding toward her neighborhood. He looked her up and down. "Got ID?" Her heart skipped a beat. "I'm just walking home from school." He stepped out of the car. "Didn't ask what you were doing. I said show me ID." Amara hesitated. This wasn't new. She'd been followed in stores, side-eyed in cafes. But this felt different. He had one hand near his belt. "I don't have my wallet. I wasn't doing anything wrong." He stepped closer. "That's resisting identification." Amara backed up instinctively. "Sir, I have rights. You can't just—" Suddenly he grabbed her wrist, twisted it behind her back. She gasped. "Ow, I didn't do anything." People across the street started turning. A woman with a stroller stopped. A boy on a bike pulled out his phone and started recording. Dugan didn't notice, or didn't care. He shoved Amara against the hood of his cruiser. "You want to play smart? Let's see how smart you are down at the station." Amara winced in pain, but behind the panic rising in her chest, one thought burned clear. He doesn't know who my father is. Handcuffed and humiliated, Amara sat in the back of the cruiser, eyes fixed on the metal divider. Her wrists burned from the tight cuffs. The recording teen had followed the cop down the block, still filming. That gave her a sliver of hope. But fear was rising fast. Officer Dugan didn't say a word during the drive, just radioed something about a non-compliant suspect. To him, she was just another troublemaker, a hoodie, a skin tone, a problem. At the station, they processed her like a common criminal. Fingerprints, mugshot. She kept saying the same thing. "I didn't do anything. They didn't care." Not until she made one phone call. She asked for her father. "I need to speak to Judge Harold James." The female officer at the desk blinked. "Who? Judge Harold James," she repeated. "He's my father. He's on the district court. Has been for 10 years. There was a sudden pause in the room. Officer Dugan stiffened. "Nice try," he muttered. But Amara repeated the number. "Call him. Now." The desk officer hesitated, then picked up the phone. The room was still, tension like an invisible fog. The moment the line connected, everything changed. "Sir, yes, sir, she's here, but—" Her voice dropped to a whisper. Yes, Your Honor." She handed the phone to Dugan. He looked confused, then annoyed, then pale. He held the phone to his ear. "Yes, this is Officer Dugan." He didn't get far. Everyone heard the voice yelling on the other end. Dugan's face turned to stone. Amara didn't smile. She wasn't relieved yet. But she knew one thing now. This was going to be bigger than one arrest. This was going to blow wide open. The next hour moved like a slow-motion avalanche. The moment Judge Harold James stormed into the precinct, the air shifted. A man of towering calm and quiet authority, Harold wore no robe, just a grey suit, black tie, and the unmistakable glare of a father who had been pushed too far. Every officer seemed to freeze. He didn't need to yell. He walked straight up to the desk and said in a voice like iron, "Where is my daughter?" Dugan stepped forward, visibly sweating. "Sir, with all due respect, no. You don't get to speak yet," Harold cut in. "You will speak when I've reviewed every shred of body cam footage and after my daughter is released, without charges. Immediately." Amara emerged from the back holding area, still in cuffs. Her face lit up when she saw her father, but her eyes were filled with unshed tears. "I'm okay, Dad." He didn't respond with words, just opened his arms and held her close, his jaw clenched tight. Dugan tried to defend himself. She didn't have ID. She matched a vague suspect description. "She's a high school student walking home. You slammed her against a cruiser because she made you uncomfortable. You detained her without cause and denied her rights." Harold turned toward the station captain. "This won't be a private matter. The ACLU will hear about this. Internal Affairs will be called. And I will personally petition for this officer's badge." The station captain, an older officer with thinning hair, nodded grimly. "Understood, Judge James. I deeply apologize. We'll begin the review process immediately. Harold turned to Amara. Come on, baby, let's go. As they left the station, cameras were already outside, reporters, microphones. And just like that, the silence before the storm had ended. The storm had arrived. By the next morning, the footage had gone viral. The teen on the bike who had recorded Dugan's assault had uploaded it to TikTok and Instagram with the caption, "Cop roughs up innocent black teen. Her dad is a judge. Watch what happens." Within hours, the video exploded. Over 2 million views in 6 hours. Celebrities reposted it. Civil rights activists called for Dugan's firing. Local news ran the footage every hour. But what hit hardest was the reaction from Crestwood High. Amara's classmates were stunned. Teachers watched the video in faculty lounges, whispering in horror. Students organized a walkout for justice. Placards were painted with her name. "Justice for Amara, protect black girls, we're walking." She was walking. Amara, however, remained quiet. She hadn't returned to school. She sat in her room, wrapped in a blanket, as the noise outside grew louder. The videos, the tags. The reporters camped outside their home. It felt surreal. Her father paced downstairs on the phone, talking to lawyers, city officials, community leaders. He didn't want vengeance. He wanted accountability, dignity. "We will not scream," he told a reporter. "We will not burn, but we will not forget." Meanwhile, Officer Dugan had been placed on administrative leave. His union lawyer issued a tired statement about proper protocol, but no one was buying it. In a press conference, the mayor, who had once been mentored by Judge James, took the podium. "What happened to Amara James is unacceptable. It's a betrayal of the values we claim to uphold. There will be a full investigation." But Amara wasn't focused on any of that. She was replaying the moment in her head, over and over, the look in the officer's eyes, the tightening of the cuffs, and most of all, the thought that wouldn't leave her: what if no one had filmed it? What if she didn't have that last name? The courtroom was packed. Cameras weren't allowed inside, but that didn't stop journalists from flooding the courthouse steps. Inside, Officer Dugan sat at the defense table, jaw clenched, arms folded. Across the room, Judge Harold James wasn't seated behind the bench. He was in the gallery, a civilian today. Just a father. Amara sat beside him, her hair pulled back neatly, a calm but cold look in her eyes. The prosecutor stepped forward. "Your Honor, the evidence speaks for itself. The victim was unarmed. She was respectful. She was walking home. The officer, without cause, escalated to force, violated her rights, and unlawfully detained her." Bodycam footage played. The courtroom went silent. The thud of Amara hitting the cruiser's hood echoed through the speakers. People flinched. Then came the teen's cell phone footage, clear, steady, unmistakable. Dugan's lawyer tried the usual defenses. Officers must make split-second decisions, he had reason to believe, but the judge interrupted. "Belief is not law. We judge by actions." The trial was swift. Too much public heat, too much undeniable proof. Dugan's badge was suspended pending criminal charges. Civil rights lawsuits were lined up. And most crucially, the city council voted unanimously to review police training protocols. But for Amara, the most powerful moment came after the verdict. She stepped to the courthouse steps, microphones flashing, and said just one sentence: "Being a judge's daughter protected me." But who's protecting the girls who don't have that privilege? And with that, the crowd quieted. The message had landed. This wasn't just about her. This was about all the voices who didn't get to speak. In the police station's cold and impersonal holding room, Amara sat with her hoodie half-zipped, dried blood near her lip, and her phone still lying on the floor where they'd thrown it earlier. She had said almost nothing during intake, only giving her name and calmly requesting one phone call. The arresting officer, Daniels, had rolled his eyes and laughed, muttering, "Sure, call your dealer." But when the call connected, and she softly said, "Daddy," it happened again. Everything changed. Judge Malcolm Carter was not just any man in this town. He was the presiding judge of the Superior Court, a former civil rights attorney, and a man who had fought decades for justice. And when his daughter called with bruises on her face, bruises put there by a cop, he didn't raise his voice. He didn't threaten. He simply said, "I'm on my way." Back at the station, laughter and casual chatter died the moment Malcolm walked through the door in a long dark coat, court seal pin still on his lapel, flanked by 2 off-duty deputies who silently peeled off to watch the front desk. The captain came out, stammering greetings. Judge Carter raised one eyebrow. "Bring me Officer Daniels." Daniels strolled in cockily at first, until he saw who was waiting. "Sir, this is a misunderstanding," he began. Judge Carter didn't yell. "You laid hands on my child. You violated every constitutional protection this badge is supposed to uphold. Daniel's smile collapsed. Malcolm continued, voice steady and firm. You think a badge gives you the right to harm innocent people? That girl has a brighter future than you could imagine, and now she's your reckoning. Daniels glanced toward the captain, but there would be no rescue. The tide had turned. By morning, it wasn't just a local scandal, it was national. A video had surfaced, recorded by a teenage bystander, and posted with the caption, "Cops beat up this girl for walking home. Her dad's a judge." In just a few hours, the footage went viral. Twitter exploded. News vans lined the courthouse steps. Civil rights attorneys retweeted it, with captions like, "This is why we march." Amara, still quiet, watched it unfold from the kitchen counter as her father spoke with his lawyer. She didn't want to be famous, she just wanted to walk home safely. Her face, swollen, bruised, real, was now a symbol for something much bigger. The town's police department issued a weak statement about reviewing procedures. But it was too late. Every network from MSNBC to CNN wanted interviews. Amara declined them all. "I don't want to be a headline," she told her father. "I want to be a student again." But her story had legs. People saw their daughters in her face. Her silence, her calm during the beating, had made the injustice even louder. A group of high schoolers organized a peaceful march to the station. Teachers brought signs. Some officers stood behind barricades with helmets, watching kids chant, "Justice for Amara." It wasn't just about her. It was about every time someone in uniform abused their power and got away with it. But not this time. Judge Carter hadn't spoken publicly yet. He was saving his statement for the courtroom, where it would count the most. Meanwhile, Daniels was placed on leave, pending investigation. He paced in his apartment, now hounded by reporters. His phone buzzed endlessly with angry messages. The video had shattered his anonymity. For once, it wasn't a badge that defined him. It was the truth. The courtroom was packed wall to wall. On one side, lawyers, journalists and activists. On the other, silent, stone-faced officers and a visibly anxious Daniels seated beside his attorney. Everyone in the town had heard the story, seen the footage, and now they had come to witness what happened when the law held its own accountable. Judge Carter walked in last. There was a weight to his presence, calm, controlled, but powerful. He didn't sit on the bench this time. Another judge had been called in to ensure impartiality. Today, Malcolm Carter was the plaintiff's father, and he had filed a civil rights lawsuit personally. Amara sat with her mother behind him, dressed modestly, her swollen cheek now fading but still visible. She didn't look like someone seeking vengeance. She looked like someone who deserved peace. The prosecutor opened, "Ladies and gentlemen, this case isn't just about bruises. It's about abuse of authority, racial profiling, and the assault of a minor without cause." Daniels's attorney argued it was a misunderstanding. "My client believed she was trespassing, but the video spoke for itself." The moment Amara calmly tried to explain who she was, and Daniels slammed her to the ground, it silenced the room. The jury shifted uncomfortably. Midway through the trial, Judge Carter asked to make a personal statement. "Too often, justice arrives too late," he began. "But today, my daughter stands here not just for herself, but for every child who walked home and was told their skin was suspicious." He paused. "We won't raise our children in fear. We will raise them to change this world." The courtroom erupted in applause, even as the judge banged the gavel. Justice wasn't just coming, it was unfolding, one word at a time. The jury deliberated for only 4 hours. As the courtroom reconvened, Daniels sat rigidly. Amara clasped her father's hand beneath the table. She didn't want revenge, just truth. The jury foreman stood and read the verdict. "We, the jury, find Officer Daniels guilty of civil assault, battery, and violation of constitutional rights under color of law." There was no cheer, just silence, then a collective exhale. Daniels looked down, unable to meet Amara's eyes. The judge continued, "The court orders punitive damages totaling $1.2 million and refers this case to the Department of Justice for federal investigation." Gasps filled the room. Daniels would not just lose his job, he would lose his pension, his peace, and likely his freedom. As court adjourned, reporters swarmed Judge Carter, but he raised one hand. "We have no comment. The court has spoken." That evening, Amara walked out the courthouse steps, the crowd parting. A group of black teenage girls rushed up to hug her. "You showed them," one whispered. "You showed them we matter." That meant more than any verdict. She didn't feel like a victim, she felt like a voice. Months later, the town had changed. Police training programs were overhauled, body cams were made mandatory. Officer Daniels was convicted federally and sentenced to prison. And Amara Carter, she was accepted into Howard University on a full scholarship to study civil rights law. Her college essay began, "My name is Amara Carter. I was attacked by someone meant to protect me. I didn't fight with fists. I fought with truth. And I will keep fighting, so no one else has to." Her story didn't end in a courtroom. It echoed in classrooms, protest signs, and policy changes. What began as brutality became a catalyst. Because one girl didn't run. Because one father stood tall. And because justice finally knocked back.